I've been an artist for over 12 years now, and I've been teaching beginner artists for 6 years. If I could go back in time and approach my art practice differently, there's so many things that I would change that would save me a ton of suffering and pain. So here are 5 things I wish I had done differently. The first thing that I would change is I would keep a log of the things that were inspiring me to draw. And the reason why I wish I had done this is so that I could always return to the feeling of enjoyment of the practice. One mistake that I made as a beginner artist, and I see this mistake all across the board, is a lot of artists, they'll start off with a ton of joy for drawing, a ton of excitement to sit down and draw, but then they realize that they need to develop skills to execute on certain drawing ideas. So then they start to learn the fundamentals. They go and start to do studies and exercises. But as they go into this spiral of studying, they lose track of why they started to draw to begin with. Do you remember why you started drawing? Do you remember the feeling of being excited to draw? If the answer is no, I would take a break from doing studies and just return back to the feeling of why you love drawing to begin with. And obviously your inspiration will evolve and change over time, but we want to keep track of it so that we remember that ultimately it's about doing drawings that you're excited about. All the studies, all the exercises are in service of this initial inspiration of the things that you are excited to express. So write those things down, keep track of them. I wish I had like a log. I wish I had like an Excel spreadsheet with all the different things that I was excited about, a bunch of inspiration folders, because sometimes it's easy to lose track of those things, especially if you've been drawing for many, many years. Like now I have a hard time remembering what I was excited about drawing when I was 15. What was it that was inspiring me initially? And what was that feeling? I wish I had journal entries. I wish I had sketchbook pages with just tons of writing about why I was excited. So I could always return to it and look at it and be like, oh, wow, that's where I was. Here are certain things that I can pull back into my current practice to be inspired by. It's very easy to lose track of those things. So I would encourage a lot of artists to just keep track of those things because they will matter a lot, especially if you're a beginner artist who wants to improve your practice over time. It can be very easy to fall into the studying trap. And I think keeping a log of things that are inspiring to you would help a ton. The second thing I wish I had done differently is I wish I had learned the basic forms early on, but in a fun way. I didn't learn about the forms until way later in my practice, but once I discovered them, I ended up doing a lot of exercises in a way that wasn't fun for me. I wasn't adjusting my drawing exercises in a way that actually mattered to me. And I think that's a big mistake that a lot of beginner artists make, is that you just go through the exercise as if they're just rote. You just have to memorize this stuff. You just have to do it. And I think that's a completely wrong way to approach it. The reason why in my 54 free drawing exercises, I give you these cute characters to play with is because that helped me learn those basic forms a lot quicker. The more fun that you have with drawing, the deeper you will learn. So make sure to adjust those exercises. If you do my 54 free drawing exercises that are linked below, make sure to pick ones that are exciting to you. Figure out how you can maybe adjust them. How do you make them interesting to you? Do you need to add patterns on top of the boxes that you draw to make them exciting to you? Like, what do you have to do for it to actually matter to you? There's no point in just going through the process, just forcing yourself to just do it. There's no point in doing that. You want to maintain your love for drawing. You want to make sure that you do not burn out. And the best way to do it is to be excited about doing drawing exercises. One thing that I've noticed is when you talk to a lot of pros, like when you see interviews with pro artists, they talk about studies in a way that's exciting to them. They're always excited to sit down and do studies, while a lot of beginner artists feel the need to do them. It's like, well, I have to do studies to get good. You want to get to a place where doing the studies is actually exciting to you. And the only way to do that is to reflect on how you can make it exciting for yourself. So if you've been trying to force yourself to do a bunch of studies lately and it's not exciting to you, if you're not excited to sit down and draw, what I recommend you do is ask yourself the question, how can I make this more fun for me, or should I be switching the exercise? If there's no way for you to make it exciting for yourself, just put away the exercise and go back and return to your initial inspirations. Go back to why you wanted to draw to begin with, and that will help you improve faster. But remember, you can always turn exercises into a fun exercise. Every drawing exercise can be fun for you if you just figure out how to adjust it to your liking. Do not put efficiency and productivity at the top of the mountain. Just being efficient is not the point. The point is to enjoy the practice, which funnily enough, that will make you more efficient, but let's just put efficiency and productivity to the side. Yes, there is a most efficient way to study. There's tons of videos on that online, but remember, it's about your practice. It's about you enjoying what you do. If you're not excited to sit down and draw, you're probably not learning in an efficient way anyways. So put that idea aside and just lean into the joy of it, because that will help you improve much faster. The third thing that I would change to make my art journey way less painful is I would make sure that I was doing mini personal projects throughout the entire journey. Instead of waiting until I had developed the skills, until I, had all the foundations figured out before starting my projects, I would push myself to do mini personal projects throughout the entire journey. Always be doing art that reflects things that you are deeply interested in, because that is what will fuel the practice. The more you do pieces that you care about, the faster you will learn, even if it means that you'll be doing your ideas in a way that doesn't feel good. Sometimes an idea feels like it's so grand that when you do it with a certain skill sets you have right now, it feels like you're falling short of it. But that is a natural feeling. That is a feeling you actually have to get used to. There are certain skills that you just don't learn if you don't actually tackle personal projects, but you can keep them small. You want to learn these skills while making it manageable. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. That's why I say mini projects. By doing mini projects as a beginner artist, you learn the skills of like pushing yourself to do things that you care about, asking yourself difficult questions like, what do I want to express in my art? What actually matters to me? These types of questions, you can ask yourself those questions while still leaving room for experimentation, because these projects can be small. A small project can be 3 sketchbook pages that touches on one specific theme. And that is a personal project. That's big enough. But if you're doing this throughout your journey, you will constantly have new inspirations and new fuel that will help guide you through the practice. Instead of assuming that you know what you want to express, instead of assuming that like, oh, if I do all these studies and get good at drawing, then expressing myself will be so easy. Instead of having those assumptions, you can go back and forth between doing studies that you care about, right? Making sure that those exercises actually matter to you, and then doing personal projects that are a reflection of who you are and where you are in your artistic journey. This is what I go through in the Inner Artist course, because I do think that that is one of the best ways to improve as an artist. If you want quicker improvement throughout your art journey, do mini personal projects. Always be doing art that matters to you, because it can be very easy to just fall into the trap of just doing studies here and there and then assuming that one day you will do your big project. Remember that you can always redo a project. If you have an idea that is so precious to you, if you have an idea that is like so core to you, maybe it's a comic idea that you had since high school, it can feel tempting to just wait and procrastinate and never do that idea. So what I recommend you do is just do a mini version of it now and let that just be the ugly draft of what you will do in the future. You can always redo ideas. Don't fall into the trap of assuming that the first time you do something has to be the best time. Like it doesn't have to be the perfect execution. You can do an idea poorly first and let that be the guide for doing it better in the future. And the more you try your hands at actually executing on pieces that you care about, the more you develop your creativity skills. There's certain skills that you just won't learn just from doing studies and exercises. There's certain skills that you will only learn through trying to express yourself through a mini project. So if you want my help with that, check out the Inner Artist course that's linked below. It's included in the Absolutely Everything bundle. It is what I care about the most. It is the thing that I recommend all my students do, because I do think that that is ultimately what matters. If you are an artist, there's a creativity within you that wants to get out. That is why you draw, but that is kind of a challenge, right? Like it can be difficult to do those things. So if you want my help to go through that process with you, check out the Inner Artist course. But obviously you can do it on your own if you're not in a place to be purchasing a course right now. Still do mini projects, still explore your own creativity, because it's ultimately what matters. It's what the world needs from you, is for you to express yourself, even if you don't share it online. Always be doing mini personal projects. The fourth thing that I would change to make my art journey way easier is I would keep track of how my expectations are changing over time. I would continuously ask myself the question of what I expect from myself as an artist. What does it mean to be a good artist? What do I consider great pieces? One thing that stands out in my mind is that I did like an inspiration board when I was in university, and there's certain pieces that I put on that inspiration board that today look weak to me. I'm like, those aren't good pieces anymore. And that's a good sign. It's a good sign that I'm developing taste, that I'm changing my inspiration. But at the same time, I've never spent enough time acknowledging that I've grown. It's very easy as an artist to continuously be pushing yourself, to continuously want to grow and forget completely that you've actually grown a lot already and not give yourself credit for that. We want to make sure that as our expectations grow, that we still maintain gratitude for the fact that we have grown as artists. So sit down right now, look at your work, and try to give yourself credit. Open your sketchbook and look at the piece, and remember that at some point in the past, you probably would have been mind blown that you could draw what you draw today. There's probably a younger version of you that would be super excited to see that you're able to draw what you're able to draw, even if you are being an artist right now. Even if all you can do is draw an ugly face, the fact that you've even sat down to draw an ugly face would be amazing to a previous version of yourself. You know, the version of yourself that was scared to sit down and draw. That version of you would be amazed at where you are right now. So make sure to give yourself that credit. This is where doing a lot of journaling, asking yourself key questions around expectations can be very, very important. As you log your inspirations, I also recommend that you journal about your expectations and constantly keep them in view. And this is especially important if you are someone who has a tendency to lean towards perfectionism. If you've struggled with perfectionism in the past and other aspects of your life, make sure to write out your expectations, really question them, and ask yourself, is this something I want to hold on to? Are these expectations realistic? Is this actually true, or is this just the voices that I've gotten externally that I'm holding on to? Ask yourself those questions, because that is very, very important. It is what will color your entire art practice. Your expectations of yourself is what will allow you to either have tons of joy in the drawing practice, or you will just fall into a pit of despair every time you do a drawing because you expect yourself to be perfect at drawing, even though you have only practiced drawing for the past couple of years, when the people you're comparing yourself to have been drawing for 40 years straight, full time, because they were lucky enough to do that. If you're comparing yourself in this unfair way, you will not be able to enjoy the practice. So keep track of those expectations, because they can be quite sinister. They can be so elusive in your mind that you don't even know that you're holding those expectations. So sit down, write them out, and keep writing them out over time, because I do think that keeping an awareness of where those expectations are at can be extremely helpful. It is what I wish I had done way earlier on. Writing down and grappling with my expectations is what released me from my perfectionism. It is why the Inner Artist course starts out with that exercise, because I know that if you are a perfectionist, or even if you just have some small expectations that get in the way, writing them out, grappling with them, really question them, can be tremendously helpful. So if you are a beginner artist, or even if you're an intermediate artist and you want to develop a healthier relationship with your art practice, write out your expectations, grapple with them, and keep writing them out over time. Maybe every 6 months, just write out, like, what do I expect from myself? Like, have I lost track of what I actually care about? Have I started adding a bunch of expectations that are unnecessary? Have I been consuming so many YouTube videos from art teachers that like put all these different expectations on me on like what's good drawing, what is this and that? Like, am I starting to let those expectations get in the way of the practice? Always keep track of it, because that will make your drawing practice so much easier. The fifth thing that I would change is I would build a drawing habit that actually lasts. Instead of trying to force myself to draw 8 hours a day all the time, I would release my grip a little bit, let myself rest, let myself draw a little bit less, and then maintain my love for the drawing practice. Sometimes you just need to take a breather. Sometimes you just need to take a break. If you're trying to force yourself to draw half an hour every day, if you're trying to force yourself to draw an hour every single day, but you have a full-time job and you have family that you have to take care of, you might be putting way too many heavy expectations on yourself, and that will ultimately make you burn out. Maybe you just need to draw less so that you can maintain your love for the practice. And if this is something that you need more advice on, I have this longer video that will help you a ton. That will be right here somewhere. Go check it out. It'll also be linked in the description. There are 5 different approaches that I go through about making sure that you build a drawing habit that lasts and works for you, so you can maintain your love for the drawing and be excited to sit down and draw at all times. So go check that out right here.